Yesterday, I unearthed an incredibly heartbreaking truth.
Did you just realize they're selling milk tea at a higher premium than gasoline again?
No, it's far more tragic than that. I realized I harbor a multitude of hobbies, yet absolutely none endure long enough to be crowned a true passion.
Ah, the classic fleeting infatuation, quick to crave, quick to discard syndrome.
Spot on! You couldn't be more accurate.
Enlighten me, let's hear it.
Last month, I was suddenly bitten by the gardening bug. I went all out and bought 8 adorable pots, complete with a bright yellow, duck-shaped watering can.
Quite the heavy investment. And then, what unfolded?
A mere 2 weeks later, every single plant had withered into oblivion.
Due to a tragic lack of watering, I presume?
Quite the contrary. I nurtured them to death. I religiously drenched them 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night. I operated under the delusion that flora required as much hydration as human beings.
They were potted plants, my friend, not an aquarium of fish.
Having learned a profound lesson, I subsequently pivoted to cultivating cacti, just to play it safe.
Well, at the very least, cacti are exceptionally resilient survivors.
3 weeks later, they, too, departed this world.
What on earth did you subject them to?
I maintained the regimen, watering them 3 times a day.
Good heavens, I am utterly speechless.
What about you? Have you managed to sustain any long-term passions?
Indeed I have. An immortal, undying passion.
And what might that be?
Slumber.
That is literally a fundamental biological necessity for survival.
Nay, in my hands, it has been elevated to an exquisite art form.
What manner of art are we talking about here?
I possess the ability to sleep soundly on a violently jolting bus, doze off during a corporate meeting while nodding as if absorbing profound insights, and even drift into a peaceful slumber amidst explosive blockbuster action films.
Color me unimpressed. That's rather ordinary.
Oh, the saga continues. There was an incident where I succumbed to sleep precisely while waiting for my instant noodles to boil.
And what were the catastrophic results?
By the time I jolted awake, every drop of water had evaporated, leaving the noodles fused to the bottom of the pot like an avant-garde masterpiece of sculpture.
You are undeniably a stealthy genius of sheer destruction.
But in all sincerity, I believe everyone possesses a myriad of fleeting interests. The sole divergence lies in whether one has the relentless perseverance to truly pursue them.
How utterly true! Take my brief stint with the guitar, for instance. I closed up shop after a grand total of 3 days.
Why the sudden surrender? Did it ravage your fingertips?
The physical agony was merely one factor. The crux of the matter is that I was violently deceived by cinematic illusions.
Deceived in what manner?
I lived under the fantasy that merely embracing the instrument would magically produce a symphony worthy of a maestro. Who knew the grueling reality involved cramping fingers to the bone, only to conjure sounds reminiscent of an asthmatic cat?
The silver screen always paints a far more glamorous picture than the harshness of reality.
Following that tragic fiasco, I transitioned to drawing, seeking a much gentler endeavor.
Did it yield any more promising results?
I passionately sketched a portrait of a cat. While I was gleefully showing it off, my mother stared at it for a profound moment and asked, "Why on earth have you drawn a sprouting potato?"
Haha, and how did you defend yourself?
I protested, "It's a cat, Mom!" She scrutinized it further, let out a heavy sigh, and declared, "If this is indeed a cat, then I sincerely apologize to the feline species."
Your mother possesses impeccable logic. But at the very least, I admire your boundless energy when it comes to venturing into uncharted territories.
Some critics argue that I simply lack patience, that I'm plagued by chronic fickleness.
Not necessarily. I perceive it merely as an insatiable curiosity about the world. Let's frame it in a more radiant light.
Well, that certainly warms the soul. Armed with that positivity, I boldly attempted baking last week.
Now that sounds like a delectable pursuit.
I consumed a 5-minute online tutorial, deemed it a walk in the park, and plunged straight into the culinary chaos.
And was it a triumphant success?
I triumphantly forged an unidentified object that ignited a ferocious 10-minute debate among the entire family.
Whatever were they debating?
No one could decipher whether it was meant to be a pastry or an ornamental boulder. It was so petrified that it severely warped one of our stainless steel spoons.
How utterly terrifying. Speaking of which, I used to be absolutely obsessed with food photography. I still have a penchant for it, actually.
Oh, now that sounds like a genuine, enduring passion.
However, I've stumbled upon a rather tragic paradox.
And what paradox might that be?
Framing the shot, perfecting the angles, and color grading consumes a solid 15 minutes. The actual consumption takes a meager 3. Then, upon reviewing the digital gallery, you realize the feast in the photos appeared infinitely more appetizing than it tasted in reality.
That, my friend, is the grand art of optical illusion. Tell me, do you ever find yourself struck by envy toward those who possess a crystal-clear, unwavering passion?
Absolutely. Take those avid running enthusiasts, for instance.
Oh, absolutely. They rise with the dawn every single day to pound the pavement, exuding this incredible aura of vitality.
I am much the same, you know. Every morning, I break into a furious sprint.
Truly? Where do you usually run?
I sprint with lightning speed to obliterate my blaring alarm clock, before triumphantly diving back under the covers to resume my slumber.
Consider my previous profound admiration officially revoked. But tell me, do you believe a passion must inherently generate monetary wealth?
Not necessarily in the slightest. There are pursuits we indulge in purely because they deliver an immediate, intoxicating dose of joy.
Take reading literature, for example. It's not as if every tome you conquer will instantly swell your bank account or radically alter the trajectory of your existence.
Precisely. But at the very least, it possesses the magical ability to shift your emotional state in that fleeting moment.
I also have a tremendous fondness for wandering the city streets. The tragic flaw, however, is that after a mere few hundred meters, my legs autonomously pivot toward every street-side snack vendor in sight.
Ah, so it turns out your pedestrian expeditions are merely a facade to...
Fabricate a perfectly rational excuse to consume exorbitant amounts of calories, completely devoid of guilt.
Impeccable logic, truly unassailable. Have you ever noticed how adults are constantly interrogating us with, "What is your ultimate passion?"
I have. It radiates an incredibly suffocating pressure.
Yet it is astonishingly rare for anyone to simply ask, "Did anything bring you joy today?"
That question carries such a soothing weightlessness. Sometimes, it's those fragmented, mundane little joys that anchor us far better than any grandiose, monumental life goals.
So, in this current chapter, what stands as your most paramount objective?
To unearth a genuine equilibrium in life.
How remarkably philosophical and mature of you. Care to elaborate on the specifics?
It translates to laboring just enough, resting just enough, and nourishing oneself abundantly.
And
Strictly ensuring that my wallet doesn't get to enjoy more downtime than I do.
now, that is truly the ultimate, harrowing challenge. But as it turns out, a passion doesn't necessarily have to be something earth-shatteringly profound, does it?
Precisely. It merely needs to be the spark that makes you yearn for tomorrow, just so you can resume it.
And grants you the grace to smile when gazing back upon those hilariously tragic failures.
Much like my infamous cactus drowning saga, you mean?
Or the desolate wasteland of my evaporated noodle pot.
Should the two of us ever decide to merge our immense talents,
It would be most prudent to never, under any circumstances, host a masterclass on life experience or survival skills.
I am in absolute, undivided agreement.
Do you ever find yourself yearning to rewind the clock back to your childhood?
Oh, constantly. It's a perpetual longing of mine.
Is it a nostalgic craving for those gloriously carefree, untroubled days?
Not entirely. It's because back in the day, if you took a tumble, you simply had to wail at the top of your lungs, and someone would immediately rush over to coddle you and scoop you up.
And how does that contrast with your present reality?
These days, if I take a spectacular spill off my motorbike, my foremost instinct is to leap back up with the speed of lightning.
So you can frantically scan the perimeter to ensure no living soul bore witness to that utterly humiliating spectacle, correct?
You nailed it. Tending to physical agony comes second. Preserving one's dignity is the absolute priority.
I vividly recall how, in our youth, clutching a mere 5,000 dong in the palm of your hand made you feel like you wielded the unfathomable wealth of an empire.
Isn't it the truth? We would march into the local corner store, clutching that 5 to 1,000 note with the majestic swagger of a triumphant corporate titan.
We could procure a delightful pack of sweet biscuits.
Toss in a handful of hard candies for good measure.
And let us not forget the impossibly sweet bag of flavored ice. And after that glorious spending spree, we would still march home with pocket change to spare.
And in today's grim reality, clutching 5,000 dong merely grants you the privilege of standing in paralyzed indecision over what to buy before solemnly pocketing your wallet and walking away. As a child, I was highly amusing. I harbored this relentless obsession with role-playing as a frantically busy adult.
How exactly did you manifest this delusion?
I would commandeer my mother's battered leather purse, stuffing it to the brim with crumpled scraps of paper until it bulged majestically. Then, I would pace the house incessantly, muttering dramatically, "Oh, the burden of my schedule! 1,000 pressing matters demand my attention."
Well, look at you now. Your grandest childhood fantasy has flawlessly materialized into reality.
It serves as a stern warning against reckless wishing. Now that the chaos is authentic, my sole desire is to vanish without a trace.
Meanwhile, my juvenile fantasies consisted exclusively of morphing into a superhero destined to salvage the globe.
Did this fantasy entail a legendary, majestic cape billowing behind you?
Indubitably. Forged from the finest material known to man, my mother's vibrant pink bath towel.
An absolute, undeniable classic.
There was a defining moment when I scaled a wooden stool, launching myself into the abyss to execute the quintessential, dramatic superhero landing.
And did you achieve even a fraction of aerodynamic flight?
The aerial trajectory was a breathtaking spectacle of beauty, but the subsequent collision with the earth left my entire body radiating with agony. From that fateful day forward, I deduced that a truly wise superhero ought to safely take the stairs.
Childhood possesses an undeniable, pure magic. A mere, unassuming cardboard box could effortlessly metamorphose into a universe of possibilities.
In one fleeting moment, it was a majestic spacecraft piercing the cosmic void.
In another, it became an indestructible armored tank, or was hastily erected into a private, impenetrable little sanctuary.
Yet nowadays, whenever we acquire new technology, the very first thought that invades our minds is
how swiftly we can obliterate the packaging to preserve our tidy living spaces. It is a tragic truth of adulthood. Our boundless imagination has simply vanished into the ether.
Do you recall the thrill of playing hide and seek? In my golden years, I employed a camouflage strategy of unprecedented brilliance.
Did it involve ascending into the canopy of trees or slithering beneath the bed frame?
Heavens, no. I simply stood rigidly behind the drapes in the living room.
That borders on mundane. It's the most utterly predictable sanctuary known to mankind.
The tragic flaw, however, was the woefully inadequate length of the drapes, leaving everything from my knees down spectacularly exposed to the elements.
Well, naturally, your capture was absolutely instantaneous.
At the time, I operated on a deeply innocent, ironclad piece of logic. If I clamped my eyes shut and could not perceive them, it was scientifically impossible for them to perceive me.
Ha, the flawless reasoning of a juvenile mind. Yet, the deeply sorrowful reality is that many grown adults still execute that exact same brand of escapism. You know, back then, the absolute bane of my existence was being forced into afternoon naps. It felt like a tyrannical confiscation of my precious hours of revelry.
And how has the passage of time altered that stance?
Today, if my boss were to graciously decree, You are permitted a 1 hour siesta at 2 in the afternoon. I would instantly enshrine them as my lifelong savior.
Verbal gratitude would be entirely unnecessary. Merely abstaining from waking me from my slumber would be a divine blessing. I find a certain irony incredibly laughable. In our youth, we fervently prayed for rapid adulthood to claim our absolute, unbridled freedom.
And having achieved said adulthood, we spend our days passionately longing to shrink back into a blissful state of childhood, utterly liberated from financial dread. Life is a remarkably cruel trickster.
Do you retain the memory of your inaugural attempt at accumulating wealth?
Vividly, I ecstatically nurtured a magnificent crimson ceramic piggy bank.
And how long did it withstand the test of time before you shattered it?
A staggering, historic 3 days.
What prompted such a rapid execution?
Because on the dawn of the 4th day, a nomadic ice cream vendor rolled through the alleyway, and the hypnotic chime of his bell was simply irresistible. Thus, I annihilated the poor creature without a shred of hesitation.
And what glorious sum of scattered coins did you harvest?
A sum woefully insufficient to finance even a solitary strawberry-flavored popsicle.
So, in a tragic twist of fate, you were denied the frosty treat and orchestrated the senseless demise of an innocent ceramic pig.
Indubitably. That served as my brutal foundational lesson in catastrophic financial investments and the utter devastation of losing both bait and catch.
In my younger years, I mimicked the cultural trope of maintaining a top-secret diary.
I assume the literary contents were of profound, staggering depth.
The opening verse dramatically proclaimed, "A profound sorrow plagues me today."
Was this sorrow birthed from a dismal academic grade or a parental reprimand?
Not in the slightest. I harbored absolutely zero sorrow. However, cinematic protagonists, composing diaries, always sported a countenance of deep melancholy, so I felt entirely compelled to emulate that tragic aura, merely for the aesthetic edge.
Let me guess. It was heavily punctuated with profound declarations like, "Not a single soul in this bleak world truly comprehends my essence," correct?
With absolute precision. And I conjure this profound existential angst at the tender, world-weary age of 8.5.
8 years old, yet bearing the heavy, solitary soul of a tormented philosopher. In my youth, I operated under the grand delusion that adults were omnipotent beings, that they harbored all worldly knowledge and possessed the power to effortlessly dissolve any crisis.
Until the crushing weight of maturity arrived, bringing the shocking revelation that
Adults are essentially overgrown children cloaked in a few extra decades. Encountering a conundrum, they silently scour the internet for salvation, aggressively skim instruction manuals, and occasionally navigate the world while holding a map completely upside down.
the undeniable truth. Oh, tell me you remember that icy dread creeping down your spine the very moment your parents summoned you by your full, legally registered birth name.
Oh heavens! The mere sound of it incited a cardiovascular panic more violently intense than sprinting a full marathon.
Even when you hadn't the faintest inkling of what atrocious crime you had allegedly committed.
Yet, your brain instantaneously generated an extensive, categorized list of confessions and apologies just to preserve your mortal life. It's the rawest manifestation of primal survival instincts.
Do you perceive a dramatic metamorphosis in yourself compared to those bygone days?
Undoubtedly, I've cultivated a touch more serenity, shed some of that explosive impulsivity, and presumably acquired a fractional dose of wisdom.
Yet, I suspect you still occasionally engage in acts of sheer, unadulterated mindlessness, do you not?
Care to illuminate me with an example?
Aimlessly pacing the floorboards, aggressively yanking open the refrigerator door, and standing there in a vacant trance, gazing into the chilling void for 5 agonizing minutes.
Only to abruptly slam it shut, having extracted absolutely nothing?
Precisely. As if banking on a divine intervention that would miraculously manifest a gourmet feast upon the barren, desolate shelves.
I am tragically identical in that regard. There are these deeply ingrained, bizarre eccentricities that one simply cannot eradicate.
However, there is a singular trait in children that commands my utmost admiration.
And what profound trait is that?
They possess an incredibly effortless, explosively radiant capacity for laughter.
A fragile soap bubble drifting aimlessly through the air is all the catalyst they require.
Or a miniature canine merrily trotting down a concrete pavement.
Or merely the grotesquely contorted facial expression of a companion. Conversely, we jaded adults demand an exhausting list of prerequisites and extraordinary circumstances just to muster a genuine smile, when, in all cosmic fairness, the more dizzyingly complex life becomes, the more fiercely we ought to laugh in its face.
In your philosophical estimation, what constitutes the ultimate hallmark of true maturity?
It is certainly not the stark chronological digit plastered on a government identification card, nor is it possessing an intimidatingly prestigious career.
What is the true metric then?
It manifests in that fragile moment when you harbor the grace to admit your catastrophic errors and possess the sheer valor to rectify them. And, above all, it's the ability to offer a gentle, nostalgic smile to your past absurdities, rather than condemning yourself to a purgatory of eternal shame and torment.
Because if you fail to master that, every time the floodgates of childhood memories burst open,
Your sole desperate impulse would be to excavate the nearest pillow and bury your face within it, to suffocate the excruciating embarrassment.
as for myself, I would be compelled to secure a one-way pedestrian ticket to Mars, claiming it as my permanent sanctuary.
Perhaps the most staggeringly beautiful facet of childhood isn't that we operated with an aura of perfection or sheer brilliance.
It is the profound reality that, in those fleeting days, we brazenly hurled ourselves into the unknown, utterly devoid of the paralyzing terror of judgment or mockery from the masses.
Rising each dawn anchored in the unshakable conviction that the universe had meticulously prepared an adventure of spectacular proportions just for us.
Now ensnared in the grips of adulthood, perhaps we needn't desperately attempt to shatter the space-time continuum to revert to infancy.
We merely need to fiercely guard a burning ember of curiosity for existence, and confront our adversaries with a rebellious streak of untainted innocence.
That alone is a magical elixir, potent enough to dramatically lift the suffocating weight of life.